Welcome to the Rundlett and Baldacci Report. We sure hope you enjoyed our Part 1 show on Gianni Russo, a truly interesting man. And tonight, we have somebody just as interesting who knows just as many famous people. I gotta tell you, the introduction I was gonna come up with was actually said by Jack Nicholson. And that introduction goes like this. You've heard about the 6 degrees of separation of Kevin Bacon. Well, our guest today has just 1 or 2 degrees to a huge bunch of superstars in pop culture. This woman has written 2 books. She has seen it, done it, and been there. If you name just about anybody you know in pop culture, from Mick Jagger to Hugh Hefner to Steve Tyler to Liv Tyler, this woman is at least 1 or 2 degrees separation from these people. Rob, tell us how lucky we are to have our guest today.
Well, we're very lucky. And Bebe, welcome back to Maine. It's so great to have you here. So great to have you here. Bebe and I were neighbors in Portland. And just, about 15, 20 years ago?
I lived in Summer Place from 2001 to 2008.
Yes.
So 7 years.
Yeah, that's right. And since then, she's moved to New York and now, most recently, Nashville, Tennessee. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But over the last several years, Bebe has published a best-selling book and has come out with a new book, which we have here, New York Times bestseller, and her new book, Rebel Soul. But I'd like to take you back, Bebe, back to when you were just a little girl and sitting in front of the TV, watching the Ed Sullivan Show, and watching the Beatles. What did that do?
You guys watched the Ed Sullivan Show.
Absolutely, and I remember it vividly.
I mean, were you there when the Beatles?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a year older than you, so.
Well, yeah, but you were still, if I was 10, you were 11.
That's right.
I think seeing first the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show and then seeing the Rolling Stones, that was really what sealed my fate.
Right.
My DNA was altered at that moment.
Right.
I resonated, I connected with the spirit that the Rolling Stones were emanating. And I connected with the whole British invasion. Yeah. And I became, I don't want to use the word obsessed, I became saturated with reading all the magazines, 16, Tiger Beat, because they were covering the British invasion. Right. So you got to read about bands like the Stones and the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five.
Herman's Hermits.
Herman's Hermits, Gary and the Pacemakers.
Yes.
And you know, I loved Paul Revere and the Raiders. I mean, it was just, they were American, but I just, the whole pop culture movement that was coming out of the UK, out of England, is what really I resonated. The women, Marianne Faithfull and Jane Asher and Patty Boyd and Mary Quant. It just, I somehow knew that was my tribe.
Right.
So when I was 10, I told my mother that those were my friends and that I was going to hang out with them and that I already knew them.
And you did.
I basically, but I basically meant what I said. I felt like, oh my God, I found my tribe, my people. And
what was it about them?
I don't know.
Just something
I don't know what
cosmic?
connects souls.
Yeah.
Our souls are connected. It's very mysterious. I mean, you can believe in past lifetimes. You can, you know. I have very metaphysical beliefs, as you know.
Yeah, I do.
So I just think that my destiny was something that I knew about very young. Yeah. I mean, I was in Catholic boarding school for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and that was when things really exploded, like the Monkees on TV and. My mother got me a tambourine so I could play tambourine in the rock mass. I was Catholic. I went to Catholic boarding school, so we had this thing called a rock mass.
Rock mass.
We would have our mass, and there would be 2 girls that played guitar, and then I was the one that did all the singing. I was the only contralto in my entire school. Really? And everybody else was either an alto or a soprano, but I was what's called a contralto, which is very rare for a child. So I got all the solos, and I was always asked to sing at the choir and the Christmas show, that kind of
Sure.
stuff. So I was very, very used to being the center of attention, even in boarding school.
Right.
And when I was naughty, the nuns would chase me around with a ruler, but I would outrun them, and I would always go hide. And I was a mischievous.
A little bit. You were a little rebel.
Yeah, but I also had their love for some weird reason. Kids did some stuff that wasn't so bad, and they would get expelled. But Mother Seraphim, she never expelled me.
Yeah.
She always gave me that confidence that I was going to do something in my life. She used to always say, I don't know what you're going to do, but it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And after she would spank me and take me around with the ruler and wear my butt out good. And but she never stopped loving me. And I remember when I left school, when I graduated from Villa Maria when I was 8, she hugged and kissed me and didn't do that with any of the other children. And I kept in touch with her. Nice. And I kept tracking her down throughout my life. And even after I did Playboy, and she knew.
So she knew you were in Playboy magazine
she
and still didn't
and I called her up and I said, what did you think of that, Mother? Because I called her Mother. Her name was Mother Seraphim. And she had moved from Villa Maria to Villa Maria in Greenbrier, and eventually she passed away. But I kept in touch with her. She always took my calls. Yeah. And one of my favorite nuns is now on the Jersey Shore, and I sort of want to make a journey to go see her.
Yeah.
Sister Dolores, Sister Michael Ann Dolores, and I don't know how to explain my life, but when I told Mother Seraphim that I wanted to play a tambourine in the rock mass, and she said, why tambourine? And I said, because Mick Jagger plays tambourine. And she said, okay.
And Bebe, I'm jumping in here because what's amazing to me is that you had this dream, and I had a dream of being friends with Bobby Rydell and Brenda Lee, and that dream came true for me. But I looked at the pictures of your book. There's pictures with you, and of course, one of the people that you spent time with was Mick Jagger, and there's a picture of you and Keith Richards. So your dream come true. What year did you actually meet Mick Jagger?
I met Mick Jagger on the eve of my 21st birthday. I was with Todd. He had been invited
Todd Rundgren.
Yeah, Todd Rundgren was invited to come up on stage with Eric Clapton at Madison Square Garden to play guitar on the last song. So we showed up, and of course Mick was there, and I met Mick that night. And I turned 21 the next day.
Wow.
Baptism by fire, you know.
So, Bebe, what was that like, though, to meet somebody that you looked
Well, the thing is I've never been starstruck.
Okay,
I've never,
good.
I
Talk
don't
about
look
that.
at people that have good jobs or artistic as being different than me. I always just felt that's my equal, that's my friend.
Sure.
Amen.
That's my tribe.
Right.
Meeting him, how did it feel? It felt like I already knew this was going to happen. It's hard for me to explain.
Yeah.
But Mick, of course, took a shine to me immediately, and then we got invited over to this apartment afterwards where everybody was smoking weed and drinking wine, and Eric and his backup singer at the time, I wish I could remember her name. She had long black hair.
Yeah.
She went on to become a pretty famous singer too. And everybody was lolling around. And I remember when I got up to go to the kitchen to get some water, Mick followed me. And that's when Todd put his foot down. Todd sort of came in and said, we're going home now. It's time to go home.
He saw the forest of the trees.
No, it's just, Todd and I were not married.
Right.
You know, we were very young. He was 5 years older than me. I was 21, and the eve of 21. I think I turned 21 in that room with Mick Jagger. How funny is that?
Wow.
And, you know, we had a very strange relationship. In those
Todd,
days, it was very Bob, Ted, Carol, and Alice.
Yeah,
everybody hung out with each other.
Right.
Rock and roll was very incestuous. We didn't want to go outside of our circle.
Yeah.
There was never any stragglers.
Stragglers.
And that's why, you know, Patty Boyd, first she was with George, and then she married Eric. And it's just, there was only a few of us girls things are very different. Things changed in the 80s. These rock stars, they only wanted the creme de la creme. They wanted women that could enhance their personas, and that could teach them things.
Sure.
I mean, Marianne taught the Stones about fashion.
Marianne
Anita
Faithfull.
taught them about danger.
Yeah.
And she taught them how to have poise around the royal family.
Well, you were an inspiration too with a lot of these
The thing
guys.
is I think I got as far as I got in certain circles because of my background, because my mother taught me impeccable manners.
Yeah. Talk about your mother just briefly.
Well, my mother
'cause
she's the
influence.
founder of the Protocol School of Washington,
Right.
and even at that point in my life,
Protocol school? What's that?
it's a protocol school. It's basically a school for teaching people protocol.
Etiquette.
Etiquette and protocol.
Etiquette and protocol, manners,
Yeah.
how to conduct yourself, what a fish fork is, how to set a table.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew all that.
Right.
And so for instance, when Mick took me to dinner in London one night, he picked me up and he said, "We're going to dinner with Princess Margaret."
Get out of here.
And so I said, "Oh, you're bringing me?" And he said, "Well, you're the only one I know that knows how to use a fork." And so,
What a great
and
story.
it was just,
Yeah.
well, he was kidding, of course.
Yeah.
Mick is a prankster, an imp.
Oh, is he really?
Very
Yeah.
funny sense of humor, very funny boy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Marianne Faithfull knew how to use a fork.
Right.
But I'm just saying that for this particular date, he wanted to bring somebody with him that could
Right.
hold their own in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And
Well, to go from watching the Beatles and the Stones on
Yeah.
TV to actually being with these people.
but like I told you,
You
there
were
was
a model,
no
though, first, Bebe,
there was
weren't
no
you?
lull for me.
Yeah, no, you never worked
I went
a
from
9 to
being
5.
10
Yeah,
to being 18
Right.
in Eileen Ford's office, being signed to a modeling contract all in 10 minutes.
amazing.
Right.
Just from a photograph that she saw of me that my mother sent.
Yeah,
My mother, again, her intuition.
sure.
I have dyslexia and I was a little ADHD. They didn't know what any of that stuff was back
Right.
then.
Right.
That's right. They just thought you were nuts.
So my mother knew I wasn't going to go to college. But she said, "Bebe, you have to have a good job. You know, you have to work. Work ethic is very important in my family."
Right.
And so she thought modeling would be a good. But see, to me, I didn't tell her this, but secretly for me, modeling was my gateway to get to New York.
Right.
So I could meet Andy Warhol, and so I could meet my tribe.
Right.
I resonated when I would look at my mother's Vogue magazine. If I saw a picture of Andy Warhol or a picture of Joe D'Alessandro or Edie Sedgwick, I wanted to know those people.
Sure.
Did you go to Studio 54? Did you go there?
I did go there, yes, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
It wasn't my scene.
Was-
I'm
yeah.
not
Max's
a big
Kansas City.
cocaine person, you
Right,
know, and
yeah.
that was like the big cocaine place.
That was
and-
a huge, Mac Davis. I had a conversation with Mac Davis, the singer. He was with Priscilla Presley, and he told me that one of the things that he was happy about was he never got into the cocaine. A lot of drinking, but never the cocaine.
It's all a matter of taste.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
It's fun for a minute.
Yeah.
And then you keep trying to do
Chase
it,
the tail.
and it's never like the first part.
Right.
And so I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Right.
You know, so
And made other people strange,
and that's
actually.
another reason why I think I fit in so well with the hierarchy of our industry, was because I wasn't some girl out looking for cocaine.
Right.
Whereas a lot of women in that era,
Yeah.
that's how they used the cocaine to get in with the guys and get backstage and to get in the door.
Right.
I mean, I saw a lot. There was a lot of drugs. It was a drug culture.
Yeah.
It was very druggy.
So, Bebe, you were not. We've heard stories about the groupies, the women that made it their business to have relations with the rock stars, like some of them do with the. You were not the groupie. You were
Well,
you
no,
were
I-
equal to these people.
Sex was never my quest. You know, I make men work real hard to get in my pants. I mean, it's just, I like a little crawling, and a little begging. I've always been like that. And somebody said to me the other day, how many one-night stands have you had? And I said, I've never known a man that didn't come back for seconds. So I've never had one. So I've always had relationships that meant something, even if they were short-lived.
Sure.
They were not brief.
Right.
And lots of times, like with David Bowie, we were friends. We didn't date. And we hung out. I was his sidekick. We ran around together. We would go to the top of the Empire State Building, go to see the Rockettes at the Rockettes. I call them the Rockettes. Too much rock and roll. I was thinking of Brian Setzer. He wanted to see the Rockettes at Radio City, that kind of stuff. He wanted to see where Bruce Springsteen lived, so we took a limo to the Jersey Shore.
Right.
And he turned me on to Bruce Springsteen.
He did.
And I was lucky enough in 1973 to be upstairs at Max's with him and two other people while Bruce did a set at the piano.
Wow.
He wasn't even standing. You didn't even get to see the standing boss. You saw the intimate boss.
Right.
And that's when David turned to me. He goes, "What's Asbury Park?" And I said, "We'll go there. I'll show you the boardwalk. I'll show you Asbury Park." It was one of my. There was a venue there.
Yeah.
The convention center at Asbury Park, and Todd would play there, and
Sure.
I'd been to a few shows there, and it was one of my favorite venues. So I knew Asbury Park. It was a seashore town. I related to it because it was a lot like where I grew up in Virginia Beach.
Right.
Yes, Virginia Beach.
Yeah, it reminded me of that. So he wanted to see Asbury Park. And I remember he goes, "That's it?" Because Asbury wasn't as built up as it is now.
Right.
So I took him for that drive where he could see all the mansions in Deal.
Yeah.
Do you know Deal, New Jersey, anybody?
No.
One of the most beautiful places.
Yeah.
Great houses, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Red Bank. He wanted to see all of that.
Yeah.
So that was my relationship with David Bowie. And when we did finally try to take the step to maybe being a little more than friends, we just we burst out laughing and we fell on the floor laughing. I mean, it was just too funny because once you become good friends with certain people, you can't take that step. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas sometimes relationships blossom from friendships to love.
Yep.
So he goes like this. He goes, screw it, let's just play with makeup, and so that's what we did. We sat there and we did experiments with makeup and doing crazy things with our eyes. And
which we know because David Bowie was, what do they call him,
well, what people don't realize about Bowie was that he was a genius mime.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he really was talented at mime. I mean, it wasn't like he was just okay.
Yeah, off the charts.
He was good. I mean, he could do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And so, of course, everybody was getting high, and he would just do little shows for us right there in the hotel room.
Did you maintain a friendly relationship with him through the course of his
my life?
Yeah.
And he even came to my daughter's wedding. I mean, it was just David. I never lost my friendship with him ever.
Yeah. And you're also still friends with Steve Tyler. You two are still pretty close.
My daughter's father, yes. Yeah. He even moved to Nashville for a couple of years. So I had been there about a year and a half, and he shows up in town. Okay, cowboy. What you doing in Nashville?
Rock and roll cowboy.
I've got to tell you this story. I was in Nashville about 4 years ago with Brenda Lee. We went to the Country Music Fest, and the first thing she says at the venue, "I want to meet Steve Tyler." And they go, "Okay, we'll go ask him." They go ask him. He come.
Was he there?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Well, he loves Brenda Lee.
Well, that's it. They said, "Come with us," and she said, "Derry, come on." They go, "No, just Brenda." So she met him. They became pals right off the bat. And then 100 people deep were waiting to get an autograph and a picture with Steve Tyler. How did that work out for him, that country music thing that he tried to do?
Well, I mean, the record did not do great. I mean, he didn't make a country record. He made I call it like sort of a pop record with a twinge.
Okay.
I mean, personally, if I had been advising him during this period, I would have encouraged him to go country outlaw, to have done what Johnny Cash did.
I got you.
Remember when Johnny Cash did a cover of the Nine Inch Nails song "Hurt"?
Yes.
Did you ever hear Johnny Cash's version of "Hurt"?
Amazing.
It blew away the original.
Yeah.
I just wish Stephen had locked himself in a room with Dave Cobb or Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Or even T-Bone Burnett, who produced Robert Plant and Allison.
Right.
I think if he had gone that direction, we could have gotten a stronger record. I just felt that the record was fluffier than his heart.
Yeah.
We needed to know about the pain. We needed to, that's why the Johnny Cash thing resonated with me.
Yes.
But he signed to a very commercial label, did the typical Nashville thing, the round table, 14 writers. I mean, you look at a song written in Nashville and it got 20 writers. You know, I'm exaggerating, but you know, lots of writers.
Sure.
And, but I'm not saying I don't like the record. I listened to it like everybody else, but I just think he's got another record in him. This isn't it.
Yeah, okay.
He's got another solo record in him, and this time I hope he digs deep in there and brings out his guts.
Stephen, if you hear this, listen to
Stephen,
Bebe.
this is advice for you. Is he still in Nashville, by the way?
No, he hasn't been in Nashville now for
Several years.
let's see, he was there from, I'd say, 2014 till about 17. So he was there about 3 years.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And back and forth in 18, because he brought me up on stage with him to do Train Kept a Rolling in front of 30,000 people. And that's, you can watch
Where was that? Where was
in
that?
Nashville.
At Fontanelle.
Oh, sure, yes.
I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm standing on the side of the stage and I see him going like this and I went, uh-oh. And my husband goes, it's on. And it was Mother's Day, so I knew he had something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
He goes, is Bebe Buell in the house? And I'm like, oh. But I got my strut. I was dressed right. I had on a rock and roll outfit. And I marched out there.
So
and I have to be honest, I kicked his butt. He ended up giving me the microphone.
No kidding. Well, if you haven't seen Bebe
But anyway,
Buell perform,
you can watch this on YouTube.
That's right.
It's only a blip, but you get to see the magic.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Sure.
We want to play it.
I can send it to you too. I mean, it's just an iPhone video, but you get the gist of what our relationship is.
I would like to see that. Go ahead, Rob.
We're best friends.
Yeah.
We understand each other. We've only known each other for what is it now? 52 years?
52 years.
So we knew each other when we were babies, when we were puppies. When I first met him, I was more famous than he was.
Right.
And then suddenly he became a very big rock star
Huge.
very fast.
Right.
But and he ended up becoming the father of my child to top it off, thank God. And I mean, we made some good DNA swirl. I mean, we were like a good ice cream.
Speaking of DNA swirl, he was at your grandson's high school graduation.
Yes, he was, and
very recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we, that those are beautiful. I mean, listen, if you guys want to pull any pictures from my Instagram for this, you can. And,
Well, we will.
And there's one of those pictures from that. That was on June 3rd. June 3rd was the last time I saw him.
So you saw him just a month ago, a couple months, yeah.
And I will always love this man. He is a handful. He's a wild bronco.
Yeah. He is really.
And please,
off the charts.
It's funny. Some people just have that energy. Right. He is just a born bronco. Yeah. I told him, you're not a man, you're a horse. I always get, I get upset too when he gets a young girlfriend and I'm like, he's a racehorse. Yeah. Do you know how to walk, water, clean the shoe, saddle, brush, do the mane? I mean, it's like, some of these guys are so complex that it is like raising secretariat or something. It takes a lot of skill.
He's a thoroughbred, isn't he?
That's thoroughbred. There's a good word.
Yeah.
Italian.
Italian
Italian
thoroughbred.
stallion.
That's
But
right.
with Stephen, he's got a very big heart, and I think that's what balances it all.
Yeah.
And he's nobody's fool.
Yeah.
He's smart.
Nobody's fool.
Yeah, he's very
that's well
smart.
said.
Just like Mick. Did you know Mick Jagger was an economics major?
No.
The London School of
That's right.
Economics.
Oh, yes.
I mean, the guy, they wonder, how did the Stones know how to work with their money? How were they so smart to know how to hire these brilliant businessmen? Duh.
Still stay together after
Mick,
all these years.
You know, Mick
Sure.
knew what he was doing.
Sure. Yeah.
To me, Mick Jagger is the greatest living entertainer,
Yeah.
front person. Well, Tom Jones is a close second.
You like Tom? You like Tom too?
He's one of the greatest performers I've ever
I
seen.
agree. I've seen him a few times.
Oh my God! And then my other favorite is Burt Bacharach and Tony Bennett.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah.
sad about
Yeah.
Tony passing.
Yeah, Tony. Well, look, he had a long life. If
I
I
know he
can make
did.
it to 96,
Right.
still being
And
as
still singing.
and
as you
still
did.
singing and
Right.
Yeah.
making records with Lady Gaga, whom I adore, and
Have you met her, by the way?
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I met her when she was Stephanie.
Really? Oh, she was.
Yeah, she's always been a genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw her in a little club, you know, at a piano. Tears were streaming down my face. I mean, she's just one of those. She and Pink, they have that ability when they're singing to just bring
Who were
you
some
to.
of your favorite female
Yeah.
rock?
Well, Patti Smith, Debbie
Patti
Harry,
Smith.
Joan Jett.
Yeah.
Joan
I
Jett.
mean, I'm old school, baby.
Well,
I
we all-
love
we all
Liza
are.
Minnelli.
You're
I love
among old
Liza
school.
Minnelli.
Liza
Liza
Minnelli.
Minnelli. I've seen her too. Wonderful person.
But a wonderful performer.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I like a good showman. I like somebody that is not afraid to really. I got a little angry when everybody started dressing icky and not caring.
Yeah.
I like my rock stars to dress up,
Yeah.
and I like them to care about giving the best to the audience.
Yes.
Right.
That's important to me. And when I see an entertainer do that,
And Mick does every time. Every time he gets
Oh,
on
my
stage,
God.
he gives him 100%.
Elton John. I mean, Mick only needs to wear a pair of black jeans, a T-shirt, and a shirt, which always ends up on the ground.
Right.
But that's all you need. And he is so rock and roll that it just oozes out of his corpuscles.
When did you decide? Shit, I can do this. I can.
Well, I
can
always
be up
knew
on
I
that.
could do it.
I know that.
I
but
was in
when
front of
did you
a mirror with my
explain-
hairbrush at 10.
Yeah. Okay, so
As
what
soon-
made you take the step?
As soon as I saw him and the way he worked
Okay.
the mic and the way he moved,
Right.
and Brian Jones and the harmonica.
Right.
I mean, people don't realize I'm a harmonica player.
You are?
And yes, I finally, once I got to Nashville, my producer encouraged me, you play harmonica. Show people that
I
you
wish
can.
you brought one with you. I would have
I
loved
know.
to see
I
you
would have
play
loved. I
harmonica.
should have. I'm sorry. I didn't think of
I
that.
love harmonica stuff. It's
Well,
great.
you know what? When I play here next, I promise you, I will
right.
whip that thing out and blow all
Oh,
the
yeah.
minds. But I've had lessons. Stephen gave me lessons. I didn't get lessons from a teacher. Well,
He gave you harmonica
I had a
lessons?
producer, John Tiven, that taught me tricks.
Right.
It really is all in the tongue. You don't even have to know music to know highs and lows. It's a scale.
Sure.
And your tongue is pretty much what your finger would be on the piano if you were going to pick a note. So when you're blowing, honking, or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
the tongue, that's why you don't see the action internally as much. But I know this is going to sound kind of funny and metaphoric, but it's a process of, it's how you blow and how you use your tongue. You know, it's like a,
Okay.
it's
I've never had
rhyth-
anybody explain it to me that
No,
way.
I
That's
know it.
unbelievable.
it's a rhythmatic thing.
Sure.
So how you move your mouth, it takes practice. I mean, it doesn't come overnight. It's not like some easy thing. But it's like anything. The more you do it, the more confident you get. But what I find with me and the harmonica, even though I practice every day, I play an hour a day.
Wow.
I don't skimp. I get out all my harmonicas. Stephen gave me
Yeah.
All
Tell the
The
audience.
long
what's-
ones.
all the
All the
keys.
keys.
All the keys and
How about
and
the little tiny ones that you used to see on
I have
television?
little ones. I have a necklace that's made out of all harmonicas, and I can even play it.
Okay, that's cool.
I can play it.
That's cool.
And I call that my dog harmonica. I play that one for my dogs.
Yeah.
And they go, oh! But so I learned how to play harmonica, but it was the way he presented the whole thing. And so I started getting in front of the mirror
Okay.
when I was a kid,
Yeah.
and I would use the hairbrush.
Yeah.
And I would start to try to imitate this and move, and I wanted to be him.
Yeah,
I wanted to be him, not date him.
Yeah.
It was just
What was your first gig?
Yeah.
the Downtown Lounge in Portland,
All right,
Maine.
let's talk
Really?
about Portland. Now this is a Maine
Halloween
show.
1980.
Okay.
Halloween 1980.
I always used local Maine musicians. I took both of my bands to New York, and they played world-class stages. And the B-sides, by the time we broke up in '85, we were headlining big rooms in New York City. The B-sides were pretty big. We got far.
And the
we went far.
Gargoyles?
Huh?
The Gargoyles?
And then I formed the Gargoyles.
Right.
The Gargoyles.
I met, and I'll never forget, Stephen King came to one of our first shows because our name was the Gargoyles.
Sure.
And I'll never forget being on stage and looking over and seeing Stephen King.
Yeah.
I was like, what is... Another time I was on stage at the Tree Cafe, and I looked to the left, and there was Stephen King.
Yeah.
And I looked to the right, and there was Bonnie Raitt.
What?
And she was in town doing a show, and after the show, they came down to the Downtown Lounge, which was on Danforth Street, y'all.
Right.
And you could walk from the Civic Center.
Yeah.
And she was hanging out, because that was the hot club then,
Sure.
But my first show was at a dump called the Downtown Lounge, but it was a cool dump. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And that was when people danced.
Right.
And so I had, from this first opening note,
Yeah.
the place was bonkers.
Yeah.
And my Aunt Mossy was there, my mama, my whole family, it was, and everybody had a ball.
Yeah.
So that was my first gig.
That was 1980.
Yep. And then my second gig was Halloween. Halloween was my first. And then on Thanksgiving, I did Bebe's Pajama Party, and I did another one at the Downtown Lounge. So those were my first two gigs.
Right.
And then one of my producers, Rick Derringer, who played with
Rick
Johnny
Derringer.
Winter
Yes,
and
yes.
Edgar Winter. He also, a lot of people don't realize, Rick Derringer produced, did you know he produced the famous song Frankenstein by Edgar Winter?
No.
Rick
No.
Derringer was Edgar Winter's producer, not only his sideman. But to make a long story short, my producer called me up and said, I'm getting ready to do a show with the Ritz. It was going to just be a Rick Derringer solo show for his All-American Boy record. And he asked me if I wanted to open the show. I had only played 2 live shows in my life.
Wow.
So here was my third show on stage at the Ritz in New York City to a sold-out house, opening for Rick Derringer, with every news outlet you could imagine, including the British press. And then I got a rave review in a magazine called Sounds out of England. And they called it the Bebe Factory. I'll never forget the review. And it changed my life. After that, I had agents calling. Everybody wanted to book the B-sides. Everybody wanted to book the band. So we had no trouble getting gigs. But we still considered ourselves a local band. Even though I was who I was and had my New York international
sure.
connections, I still lived in Portland.
Right.
I loved Portland.
Yeah.
I loved my friends. I loved my band.
Yeah.
You're very loyal to Portland, aren't you? Very
She really
loyal.
is.
And you said earlier at lunch that you are pretty much the reason why Portland is a rock and roll scene.
Well, I
Tell
think
us about
Yeah,
that.
talk about that, Bebe.
I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my horn or anything, but the B-sides, when we came out, there were a couple of really cool bands in town, like the Stains and Zero Mentality, but it was a punk movement that was trying to squeeze through Portland. And then you later had your traditional artists, you know, like, who's the guy
overtones.
that I opened for up at Bowdoin College? Bill Chinook.
Sure, yeah, Bill Chinook from
You
Maine,
had your
sure.
Bill Chinooks, you
Right.
know, and you had your staples.
Sure.
Yeah.
But the rock scene had not really exploded here yet.
Right.
We didn't have a real rock and roll scene.
Yeah.
And so when I came to town, I thought, you know what? We're as cool as Seattle. We're as cool as this. Why can't we have a cool
Amen.
rock scene?
Yeah.
So that was the mission of the B-Sides, to help and inspire other people to start bands. And then before you knew it, we had more bands than you could shake a stick at. And then you had the Moguls, the Brood. Remember the Brood, the all-girl band? They were great.
Yeah.
These bands were incredible.
Yeah.
And so Geno's became like the CBGBs of Portland.
Sure. You remember Geno's, Derry?
Yes.
CBGBs was where Hilly Crystal gave all the new bands a platform to get good.
Sure.
Well, that's what Geno did here. Geno's was on Brown Street. It's now on Congress. Geno's long gone, and his son took it over after he passed, but now Gene's out of the business too, and somebody else is running it, but it's still a very good place. Good place to cut your teeth, learn your craft.
Sure.
So, I mean, we used to play there all the time. And whenever an out-of-town band would come, we'd take them to Geno's. When the rock stars would finish their set over at the Civic Center, they would come over to Geno's.
Really? Yeah.
Sometimes jump up on stage. I mean, I saw everybody in Geno's from Jimmy Page to Sting.
Right.
I mean, everybody's been in Geno's.
Sting was in Geno's?
Of course. I mean, probably more than once. I mean, I don't know. But the thing about Geno's is that they felt like they could go in there. There was nobody trying to take pictures. We didn't have iPhones then. Yeah. Portland has never had paparazzi. Yeah. And Mainers are just too cool to react.
Yeah.
Well said.
They just they're just too cool. Oh, Sting's here. All right, great.
Yeah.
Bebe,
Geez, I'm crowbar.
Bebe, all these rock and roll things in your performances, were these before or after you posed for Playboy?
Oh, well, Playboy was just one of the
Early
billions
on.
of things
I
I've
know,
done.
but
It was just a moment in my life. People don't understand. I never became part of the Playboy empire. I never hung out with Pef or the man. I did stay at the mansion a couple times.
You did stay there?
Oh,
Right.
yeah, twice. I stayed there
And
once
you
for
knew
2 weeks.
You knew Hugh Hefner. But,
I did, and I never saw any of the horror. You know, there's a lot of stories going
Right,
around.
right.
And I'm going to show my empathy for the women right now, because
ahead.
just because that did not happen to me does not mean it did not happen to them. Sometimes predators are selective.
Yes.
I don't think that Hef would have been stupid enough to come after me because I had a famous boyfriend and I was a pop culture icon. So I don't think he would have pulled that malarkey on me.
Right.
Well,
And what year would that have been, if I can ask you?
that was early 80s.
Okay.
When I
Right.
stayed at the mansion.
Yeah.
There was a period when I was dating Jack Nicholson that I thought about maybe moving to LA and bringing Liv to LA. I thought it would be a good place for her.
So the comment that Jack Nicholson made that I came up by myself, you were dating him
well,
when he
Jack's,
said
he's the one that dubbed me the mother of rock and roll.
Right.
he did.
Because he thought I was too motherly all the time. I'm always trying to get people to drink water and to
Yes.
eat right and to do this and
Drink
to do
water
that.
a lot.
And
Yep.
don't take those drugs. Put those drugs away. Just smoke weed. Don't bother with all this other horrible stuff.
Right.
Just, you know. But, and one time Jack was being a little, I thought drinking a little too hard. And I put my arms around him. I said, sweetie, enough. And he goes, what are you, Bebe? The mother of rock and roll?
That's great, baby.
And it's just, it's stuck. It went from friend to the stars. Everybody tried to call me everything but the G word, which I don't even like to utter because it's so sexist. I think the sexism is one of the
it's
things.
It's huge, isn't it?
I fight it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm a fighter of sexism. I'm an ism squasher. I call
Bebe,
myself.
how did you feel when the movie Almost Famous came out?
I felt honored to be even a speck of inspiration
Right.
for that film.
Cameron
Because, of
Crowe.
course, it's not, everybody thinks it's totally me.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
I mean, it is Cameron Crowe's story. the movie was, the working title of Almost Famous was The Journalist.
Okay.
Because as you know, the movie's about him
Right.
starting as a 16-year-old journalist.
Right.
And he was the first journalist I met when he came on the road with Todd
Yeah.
to do the story for Rolling Stone on Todd. And Cameron and I are born one day apart. I'm July 14th. He's either the 13th or the 15th. I can't remember, but he's maybe a couple years younger than me. But we were the babies. We were the youngsters on that tour. So we bonded, you know. When they were off doing shop talk, Cameron and I would go and, you know, sit and talk, and, you know, he would be so frustrated because he couldn't nail everybody down for interviews, just like in the movie. But you have to remember, the movie is fiction.
Sure.
Based on truth and nonfiction. So the Penny Lane character, who sort of stole the movie.
Right, I had that for a question, yes.
When it really is his story.
Yeah.
That's why I get frustrated with people, because they like, you're Penny Lane. No, she's a smorgasbord of a couple of women that Cameron knew.
Right.
And you're one of them.
She's a combination of, so Penny Lane is Penny Trumbull and me. I mean, so it's basically, and then there's other girls that say, I'm Penny Lane. And this is what I say. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's Cameron's story,
Right.
Cameron's life, Cameron's creative artistic license.
Right.
And if I'm even one speck of that,
It's cool.
I'm honored.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love what he said about me in my book.
Yeah.
What is it? That last line.
Well, it says, if, using the F word, Bebe Buell loves it and remembers twirling around, I walk away happy.
Yeah.
So the point is that at the time it hadn't done a great box office.
Right.
Now it's a classic film. It's
is.
the Gone with the Wind of rock and roll.
Right.
And at the time, though, it hadn't done a great. And he was nominated for an Oscar. Yeah. So the question that the magazine said, you know, how do you feel about that? And for him to say, as long as I liked it, that's all that mattered to him.
Right, and that's what it says. And by the way, the F word is used as an adjective.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, not a descriptive adjective.
No, right. No.
Thanks for the clarification,
Yeah,
Derek.
no, I had to.
And I also, you see the coat that Penny, here, let me show you something
Go
else.
ahead.
And I also want to show this picture. Show me of you on the cover of Portland
I'm on the
magazine.
cover
And it
of
says
Portland
Almost
magazine.
Famous again, and there you are. Okay.
But this is my favorite. The day I met Cameron, I had on the Penny Lane coat.
Oh, that's
you
it
did?
right there.
Oh, wow.
This was a photo booth
Yeah.
picture that was taken. I was with Cameron when these photographs.
Well, those photos were taken?
This was the day I met him.
Wow.
And he remembered this coat, and it
Put
ended
that
up in the movie.
Sure.
So, and if you remember, you want to prop it up again?
Yeah,
Do you
just so
remember-
people can see it. It's a fantastic book.
I mean,
Bebe.
Penny Lane's opening line in the movie is, somebody said something about groupies or something, and you see that eye go, we are not groupies,
Right,
you know.
right.
We are Band-Aids. We inspire the, you know, it was like,
Yeah.
he took that essence of me. Whereas other girls embrace the groupie word, love it,
Yeah.
and proudly wear it. I don't judge.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're definitely, I mean, the whole point of this book and the whole point about having you on the show is that you are a force to be reckoned with. And one of the things that, because we're running out of time, this has gone by so fast.
I know it.
One of the things that you say, and this is a very important part of the interview for me, is that the greatest accomplishment you ever had from the rock and roll and knowing all these big people, the greatest accomplishment you ever had is Liv Tyler. And
well,
she has
wasn't
become,
Liv Tyler.
She has
was
become
Liv Rundgren.
Initially.
Yes, but she is so highly respected, and I now understand why she is so well loved and
Because of her
so
mother.
humble.
Well, I
because-
can't take all the credit.
Well, you take a
because
lot of the
my
credit.
mother and my cousin, who is like my sister, raised as
Raised
my
her.
sister
Okay.
Annie,
Correct.
We did this as a trilogy. We call ourselves the Triangle.
For Liv Tyler.
It's three of us.
Right.
My mother, if it weren't for my mother and for Annie, I couldn't have kept having a career. Right. I couldn't have toured. The fact that I had the sense and the forthright to bring my baby up here,
Yes.
so she could feel the grass under her toes.
She went to school here in Portland.
She did.
She went to Breakwater. She went to Waynefleet. She even did kindergarten at Reiki.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
She's a Portland girl.
she was not born here. She was born in New York
But
City.
If she went to school at those
But
places.
she was in Portland until she was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then then the record company started courting the Gargoyles, and Joey Ramone from the Ramones said, Bebe, you got to move back to New York. I can't get you a record deal up there in lobster country, he used to call it. So I'm like, well, why not? It's only a 6-hour drive, Joey.
Yeah, right.
You know? And he's like, no, you need to live here again.
Yeah.
So I packed up my apartment on High Street.
And
My
brought
family,
Liv.
my family took Liv till I got settled.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get settled before I brought her into the chaos. So I wanted to get an apartment, and so she could have her own room. And
Right.
and I went back and forth still, even though Joey asked me not to. I still did anyway. Whereas the band stayed in New York. But '89, I went back, and we started to take off really fast. But then her paternity became public, and that sort of put a kibosh.
She had to change her name from Rundlett to Tyler.
She didn't have to.
I mean, not have to, but she did.
It was just, it felt right for her.
Yeah.
This was her choice. See, what everybody has to understand is that nobody forced Liv to do anything. She came to me when she was 15 and said, Mom, I don't want to do much modeling. I think it's nice and I'm flattered, but I want to be an actor.
Mm-hmm. And she sure is.
No, she literally landed a role within 6 months of saying those words to me.
Right.
When she told me she wanted to be an actor, we were in the middle of the Amazon jungle.
What?
Literally on one of those boats that if you fell in the water, you would get eaten by piranhas.
Get out of here.
And she was shooting a campaign for Bongo Jeans.
Yeah.
And it was when we got back to camp and mosquitoes as big as chihuahuas were coming after us that she said, Mom, when we get back to New York, I really want to be an actor.
She didn't want to be a model.
I want to act.
Did she act on stage? Did she ever do on stage?
No, she didn't
She
have
started
to.
right off of the movies.
You know what? Some people, like I said, I believe in multiple lifetimes. Some people are old souls. Some people just know who they are. And some people are just given a God-given gift, and you cannot put it in a bottle. You can't explain it. Yeah. You get your Meryl Streeps, who were trained heavily. She's still one of the greatest ever to ever live. And then you get your rawness, your people like Liv. Is you put a camera on them.
And she's beautiful.
Bam.
Boom. Yeah.
Her first screen test brought me to tears.
Really?
Yes, she didn't get the movie. Natalie Portman did.
What movie was that?
The Professional.
Yes.
It was between the two of them. Liv was too tall. There was a scene in the movie where Natalie Portman has to wrap herself around the guy's leg while he runs through, and she was a small girl.
Yeah.
But it was down to the two of them. Natalie got the part. But then she got her first movie was called Silent Fall with Richard Dreyfuss.
Yes.
And then her second movie was a movie called Empire Records, and then she then she made it was heavy Empire Records.
Right.
But the movie that changed her life was Stealing Beauty.
Absolutely.
The Bernardo Bertolucci
Yes.
classic.
Is that your favorite movie by her, by the way?
I can't put I love Cookie's Fortune, the Robert Altman movie myself personally. The one where she cut her hair off 2 inches for the role, to be 2 inches long. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of her strongest roles. She's done so many good roles. I love That Thing You Do. Tom Hanks's directorial debut.
Yes.
And he chose her for that.
Yeah.
And
Bebe, you managed her career.
I did. I managed her up through all that.
Really? All the
I had to wear a whole new hat. I had to go from being
talk about that a little bit.
in a
We have
rock and
few
roll
more
band and
minutes.
being part of the rock and roll royalty circle.
Right.
to actually, I just wanted to be the best mother I could be.
Yeah.
And I know how dangerous that industry is. And I
Yes.
know the predators are everywhere, you know.
Everywhere, predators.
And
The Harvey Weinsteins. And,
I got myself a desk and a phone and a Rolodex, and I just went to town.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well, congratulations to you.
I know, seriously.
so I realized that I could do many things.
Yeah.
You don't just have Jack of all trades. There's Jill of all trades.
So, Bebe, what's your next chapter?
Well, I'll be honest. I only enjoyed modeling. I mean, modeling. It's all M's. Musician, model, mother, manager, the M word. But I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was only good at it because it was her, because I loved her.
Yeah.
But if I had to manage some of these
Yeah.
crazy people,
Yeah.
I would lose my mind.
right.
So it was a labor of love. I'm not a momager. I don't want to be Kris Kardashian.
Right.
I just wanted to set her up to be poised to go to the next level.
Yeah, you certainly
And
did that.
she did that herself. You know, I took her to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
it was all, I mean, live is
Lord of the
live.
Rings. Yeah.
If you don't have the talent, it doesn't matter who your parents are. It doesn't matter if your dad's famous, your mom's famous, your
Right,
dog's
you're
famous.
right.
If you don't have the talent, she had the talent.
She did.
And Bebe, only because you mentioned her at lunch, that you also were friends and fairly close to Lisa Marie Presley.
Well, no, I was not close to Lisa Marie. I had the great privilege of meeting
Oh,
her
I see, okay.
and spending conversation time with
Okay,
her,
yeah.
where I got to know her
Okay.
and got to see who she was.
You liked her.
I did. Beautiful person.
Sweetheart.
And I remember it was around the time when she was getting ready to marry Nick Cage. People forget that
Oh my God, I
not
forgot
only
that
did
one.
she marry Michael Jackson, but
Yeah, I
she
know.
also
Right.
married Nick Cage.
That's right,
Yeah.
Nick Cage.
I mean, Lisa Marie. And here's what bothers me the most is that nobody let her be the musician that she was.
And Rob, you've seen
I've
her.
seen
you
her
saw her,
at
and
the
yeah, you
She
liked her.
was
and
great.
it-
Was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
She was dead
Not
good.
only could she really sing,
Yeah.
she had a great voice,
Yeah.
played guitar too, and she could write songs.
Mm.
And I imagine being the king's daughter, how
Right.
hard
Oh
that
my
must
God.
have been.
Yes.
Incredible.
So I think if she had been allowed to really expand and spread her wings as a musician, that her identity wouldn't have suffered. And I think that she'd still be with us.
Yeah.
Because it meant so much to her to look good, and she wanted to look pretty for the premiere of and basically it's what killed her.
Yeah.
The way
Very
she was,
sad.
she wasn't caring properly for herself.
Right.
And that was the pressure of trying to live up to this legacy.
Bebe, we only have a few more minutes left, and I wanted to at least give you some time to talk about the next chapter that you see in your life. You're a best-selling author, musician, performer.
Yeah.
What's your next project? What
Well,
do
I
you-
would like to spend. I just turned 70, everybody.
You look fantastic.
And I mean,
Yeah.
considering that I remember turning 30 and having a party at the Tree Cafe. I just want to keep writing books, and I'm writing a book right now about animal reincarnation. Please don't cringe; you're gonna love it. And
Animal reincarnation.
I believe in it. I
Yes.
believe in reincarnation, period. But I think that animals' souls are as relevant and as important as a human soul. It's just an evolving soul. And I've written a book about it because I have a dog that I am certain has been my dog at least 3 times in one life. So I want to continue to write books, and that's why I'm thinking about moving back to Maine.
Right.
Because I want to have a desk in front of a window where I can look out
looking
at
out the ocean, whatever.
or
yeah.
the trees or the Casco Bay, wherever I find the house.
Right.
We'd love to have you come back.
I want to
Amen.
keep writing books.
Yeah.
I've been offered another book besides my animal reincarnation. Somebody wants to do a coffee table photo book of my life.
Okay.
And I would just write the captions.
Yep.
But so I want to write books. I want to mentor. That's very important to me. I like mentoring.
Yeah.
I know the technical word is creative consultant, but I like mentoring.
Yeah.
I love helping young people not make mistakes.
Right.
Because it's so easy to make mistakes. I mean, kids now, you really have to worry. When we were young and experimenting with drugs, it was pure, it was, the dosages were so much smaller.
Right.
The pot now is like, but fentanyl.
Oh, it's
I
awful.
want to take a moment.
Go ahead.
Caution. Fentanyl is what's killing all our babies.
Yeah.
It only takes 1 grain of fentanyl to kill 5 people. So they're cutting drugs with fentanyl. So what we did effortlessly, the experimentation, the crazy.
Right.
I mean, when we were kids, Timothy Leary made all the acid.
That's right.
That's right.
And he made the acid that went around to the whole country.
Yeah.
It was personally made by Timothy Leary.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
LSD.
It was the very first batches, when late 60s into early
right.
70s. He invented Orange Barrel Sunshine.
Yes.
And it's just so scary because now if a kid takes the wrong pill
He dies.
or snorts the wrong thing, we would learn our lesson, throw up, get sick.
Right.
Oh, I never want to do that again, Debbie.
Right.
Oh my God, that was. Now you're going to wake up dead.
Right.
So, kids, you don't need it. It's just stay away from it. The drugs are not like they were when people are like, oh, I want it to be the 70s. I want to live like
But
it's the
not,
70s.
is it?
No, drugs are not as weak as they were in the 70s. Why is Keith Richards still alive? Because of that.
Right.
I can't believe you say that. Because everybody says, how does Keith Richards manage to stay alive? How does he?
Bottom line?
You just said it because he.
Bottom line, though, he's Welsh. You can't kill Welsh people.
Oh my God.
Like Tom Jones.
Yeah, that's right.
No, but see, Keith is also a brilliant man with common sense.
Yeah.
So when he finally fell out of the tree that time and really hurt himself, he stopped smoking. He stopped doing everything.
Yeah.
And look, he's going to be 80.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Mick turned
He looks
80.
104, but he's 80.
Mick turned 80 on July 26th.
That's right.
And Keith turns 80 in December. They're only a couple of months apart
Are you
from
still
me.
in touch with either of them, like even today?
Yeah, I mean, I do have, I'm not saying we call each other on the phone, but because of my daughter who's friends with all their kids, and I mean, we all have children together.
So you can get Mick on this show.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. We're not that big.
Mick only stayed 45 minutes at his own party with Leonardo DiCaprio and people like
Okay.
that. So his own birthday party.
So-
I thought I'd throw it out
No.
there,
No,
Rob.
no,
At least
no.
you asked.
You're not going to get any. These people don't need to do shows anymore.
No, of course not.
They're at the point where we should all feel blessed that we can still see them. I'll see the Stones until they're not able to do it anymore.
Absolutely.
They're still the greatest rock and roll band that ever lived.
He works out. He works out every day. Mick does. Works out every day.
Unbelievable. And he's even got a stent. You know,
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, he almost had a heart attack a couple years ago. You don't
Oh, my
remember?
God. I remember
I don't know
now.
if it was a heart attack or a blockage.
Right,
I think
whatever.
it was a blockage.
But he survived it.
Yeah.
But look at Keith now. He's so beautiful. He's such a beautiful human being, and you can learn so much from him.
Yeah.
I just remember sitting with him in Martha's Vineyard, out in Montauk. Not Martha's Vineyard, Montauk at Andy
James-
Warhol's compound.
Oh, okay.
I was invited to come out there with Billy Preston, and we took a little Mick sent a private plane for us, and we had our own little cottages and everything, and it was so beautiful. And I just remember walking on the beach with Keith, and there was horseshoe crabs everywhere, and he had a gun, and he was sort of like, pew, pew. He was target practicing on the horseshoes.
Okay.
They were dead.
Okay,
That was
already
just their,
dead.
Just their shell.
Yeah, right.
Thank you for
We have
that.
them in Cumberland, too.
Thank you for that.
But the wisdom and the clarity and the brilliance and the beauty of this man, I'm just so glad he's still with us. And I'm glad that he gave up smoking and has a beautiful wife and beautiful daughters. And so his daughters know my daughter. So and Stella McCartney, and they're
Paul
all,
McCartney,
it's all the
all
babies.
close.
They're all grown up.
Yeah, I know it.
My daughter was 46. Whoever thought that day would come? Yes.
Bebe, can't thank you enough. Yeah, we want to have you back like
Well,
nobody's
I want to
business.
come back.
Next
Well,
time
we'll
you
have you
come
back
back
like
up
nobody's
to Maine.
business.
Yes,
Okay.
I would love it.
Thank you, Bebe.
Okay, thank you for the Rundlett and Baldacci report.
Thank you.